Hey math friends, so today you are going to take a quiz just showing me that you know how to add and subtract rational numbers, just very basic. So let's just review very quickly how to do each of these and then that way you can take your quiz. So if we're adding rational numbers and they're the same sign, we want to know how many positives or how many negatives we have. So we're going to make sure that we add the numbers and keep the sign. So if we have 1 plus 1, that would be 2. Negative 1 plus negative 1, how many negatives is negative 2? Then if we have different signs, we have to take the difference or subtract the numbers and then keep the sign of the number that's bigger. So the example here, 8 plus negative 5, you're going to subtract 8 minus 5, ignoring the negatives. You get 3. Then you're going to keep the sign of the larger number or the number that is further away from 0. So 8 is further away from 0 and it's positive, so our answer is going to be positive. Then we learned about subtracting rational numbers. And very simple way to subtract rational numbers is to add the opposite. So we're going to keep that first number, we're going to change the minus to a plus, and we're going to change to the opposite of the second number. So keeping the first number, we kept 2, minus to plus, the opposite of positive 6 is negative 6. And then we use our addition rules. 2 plus negative 6, they're different signs, so I subtract. And then 6 is bigger and negative, so it's a negative answer. And if you need to draw the counters with these, by all means do that. But when you get to those decimals and those fractions, that's when you may need to actually do some of this algebraic thinking. So, just to remind you as well, adding and subtracting decimals, line up your decimals. So if I have 4 plus 2 plus 7.1, 4 plus 2, 7.1. Line your decimals up so I know my answer is going to line up as 11.3. Adding and subtracting fractions. Find a common denominator. So if I have 1/2 plus 1/3, I'm going to find a common denominator by finding the least common multiple. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 6, 9. 6 is my common multiple. So I would rewrite this to make sure that I am multiplying by the right thing. 3 times 2 is 6. Multiply my numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So my 1 times 3 is 3. Now I have a common denominator. Now I only add or subtract my numerators, keeping my denominator the same. 3 plus 2 is 5. 6 is my denominator. So let's do a few examples. You guys know that these are both positive. 7 plus 6, that would be 13. Then if I have negative 8 plus negative 11, same sign, negative 19. 8 plus 11 is 19. Now if I have different signs, I know that these are different signs. One's negative and one's positive. So I'm going to subtract them. 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 is further away from 0, so my answer is negative 2. For B, 5 plus negative 9. They're different signs. 9 minus 5 is 4. We subtract. 9 is further away from 0, so my answer is negative. Let's do 2 examples with decimals and fractions. Negative 1/2 plus negative 1/6. First thing I need to do is find a common denominator before I do anything else. So, I know 2, 4, 6. I know that 6 would be my common denominator. 1/2 over 6. So 2 times what number gives me 6? 2 times 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Keep my negative. I'm going to keep my signs. Negative 1/6 is just negative 1/6. I'm not multiplying by anything but 1. Now I have a common denominator. Now, do I have the same sign or different sign? Same sign. So I'm going to add my numerators, keeping my denominator the same, and I'm going to keep my sign, negative 4/6. Also, when we're doing these decimals, different signs here. So I've got a positive 8.7 and a negative 6.4. Well, I know when I have opposite signs, I'm going to subtract my numbers. 8.7 minus 6.4. Put a decimal here. 7 minus 4 is 3. 8 minus 6 is 2. Which number is further from 0? 8.7 or 6.4? 8.7. So I know that my answer will be positive because 8.7 is positive. Now subtracting rational numbers. Remember, when we subtract, we're going to add the opposite. We keep our first number the same always. So I'm going to rewrite this. And I want you to rewrite this when you take your quiz today. 3 stays the same. We're going to add now, so that minus becomes a plus sign. And then the opposite. Well, that's a minus sign in front of that 5. So that's a positive 5. What's the opposite of positive 5? Negative 5. 3 plus negative 5. Same sign or different sign? Different. So I'm going to subtract 5 minus 3 to give me 2. Which number is further from 0? 3 or negative 5? Negative 5. So my answer is negative because negative 5 is further from 0. Let's try the second one. Keep the first number the same. Negative 10 stays the same. This minus sign becomes a plus sign, and that was a minus sign, so this is a positive 2. I need to make it negative 2, the opposite of positive 2. Now I have negative 10 plus negative 2. These are the same sign now, so I'm going to add them together. 10 plus 2 is 12. Keep your negative symbol. Let's do 2 examples of a fraction and a decimal. Before I do anything else, I want to go ahead and change my signs because I know that this is subtraction. So keep the first number the same. Minus becomes a plus. This is a negative 2/3. Now it's positive 2/3. Now I want to find a common denominator. Oh, excuse me. I need to figure out what number is common between 10 and 3. I could write my multiples of 10 and 3, but I could also just multiply them. I know that 10 times 3 is 30, so I'm going to try 30. What number do I multiply 10 by to get to 30? 10 times 3. So what is 9 times 3? 27. Don't forget your negative. Now this is a positive 2/3. What do I multiply 3 by to get to 30? Well, 3 times 10. So 2 times 10 is 20. Now I have a negative number and a positive number. They're different signs. So I'm going to subtract my numerators. I get 7. Denominator stays the same. Which number is further from 0? 27 out of 30 or 20 out of 30? 27 out of 30. So my answer is negative 7/3. Now, for this decimal one, 5.2 minus 10.7. It's a subtraction, and it's not going to give me a number greater than 0. So I need to do that adding the opposite method. So I'm going to keep my first number, change that minus to a plus, change this positive 10.7 to a negative 10.7. Now I have a positive and a negative. Well, they're different signs, so that means I'm going to subtract 10.7 minus 5.2. Remember to always keep your decimals lined up. 7 minus 2 is 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. 5.5 is my answer, but I have to remember the sign. Which number is further from 0? 10.7 or 5.2? 10.7 is further, but it is a negative number, so my answer is negative. Okay? So make sure that you pay attention to your signs. Make sure if it's a subtraction problem, you add the opposite. And if you need any help, let me know.